Episode 8, Design, Stairs. Code is very specific on stair design. I had landings halfway between the floor, both going upstairs and downstairs from the main floor. So I had 4 different sets of stairs in ascending order: basement to landing, landing to main floor to landing, landing to balcony. I knew the height that I was covering for each of these sections. I needed to design the total run to get to that height. Was I going to use 8 stairs or 9? How deep would the treads be? How high would each riser be? How would I design the stringers? And how many would I put below each set of stairs? I needed to account for the eventual floor covering depth on the basement floor, the stairs, the main floor, and the balcony floor. A standard stair design will look like this. The landing construction will look like this. All stairs in a run must be uniform with very little variance. Each run ends when you get to a landing. I elected to simply count each landing as a stair. I then opted to ensure no variance in rise run all the way between each floor. The stairs going to the upstairs, though, are independent in rise run from the stairs going to the basement. Here is a summary of code requirements for residential stairs. Minimum 36-inch clear width for stairway. Maximum 4.5-inch handrail projection into stairway widths on either side. Minimum 6-foot 8-inch headroom height clearance for stairway. Maximum 12-foot 7-inch vertical height rise for a flight of stairs. Maximum 7 3/4-inch stair riser height. Minimum 10-inch stair tread depth with nosing, or minimum 11 inches with no nosing. Handrail graspability to be either type 1 or 2 with a minimum 1.5-inch clearance from the wall. Handrail height to be placed a minimum of 34 inches to 38 inches. Stair tread depth. As for stair treads, again, the depth should not be less than 10 inches. However, this will require nosing projections. To avoid having to install the nose, the code requires the depth of the tread to be no less than 11 inches. 10 inches plus a bull nose, or 11 inches, no bull nose required. Reviewing handrails for stairs. Each flight of stairs having 4 or more risers must be provided with handrails on not less than one side. When it comes to handrails, the code is very specific on this. Handrails should provide proper graspability provided by a Type 1 or 2 handrail. Type 1 handrails lay out the parameters for handrails having a perimeter dimension of not greater than 6 1/4 inches, while Type 2 handrails address handrail perimeters greater than 6 1/4 inches. As stated earlier, handrails will be placed 34 to 38 inches high and shall be provided on at least one side of a flight of stairs having 4 or more risers. If they are placed up against a wall, they should have a clearance from the wall not less than 1.5 inches. They must be continuous for the full length for the flight of stairs and shall begin at a point directly above the bottom riser to a point directly above the top riser. Episode 9, Design, Foundation, Cement Pads, and Footers. Minnesota Code 1309.0404, Section R404, covers foundation and retaining walls. Now that I know my loads for every post down into the basement, I can distribute these loads into the soils below. This distribution is done through cement pads that are under the basement floor. In order to calculate the size requirement of the cement pads, we need to know the soil composition and compressibility. This can be done with actual soil tests, or it can be done with the geologic survey of the land on which the home will be constructed. The type of soil that was at my construction site had a compressibility of 2,000 pounds per square foot. Once again, to over-engineer, I designed my cement pads for a softer soil of only 1,500 pounds per square foot. To size the pads properly, I looked at the point load coming down to the specific post and divided it by the soil compressibility. So for a 6,000-pound point load, I would take the 6,000 pounds divided by 1,500 pounds per square feet, which equals 4 square feet. This result is a pad with 4 square feet of surface area, a 24-inch by 24-inch pad. I rounded the pad sizes up to the next 6 inches for each pad. Code required the following of the pads: 12 inches thick of concrete. All rebar was to be 3 inches off the bottom, with number 4, 1/2 inch rebar each way. The number of bars each way was a function of pad size. 3 each way for an 18-inch square pad, 4 each way for 24 to 30-inch square pad, 5 each way for a 36-inch square pad, and last, 6 each way for a 42-inch square pad. Placement and sizing of the pads is shown in the drawing. Each pad is outlined in red with a letter showing its size. This view also shows where the beams are in relation to the posts and pads. On the left, I show the size of each of the pads and how much rebar is required each way.